Not only did the city of Santa Ana, California pass a rent control law, they also decided to pay lawyers rent relief funds instead of landlords. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over some new laws that have just been enacted in Santa Ana, California. Okay, so Santa Ana is just outside of Los Angeles in Orange County, and it really has put into place some strict, tenant protections and anti-landlord laws. And it blows my mind that they're even putting this into place, because the truth of the matter is that it will not help make housing more affordable for those who need it. Okay, it's just not going to happen. Rent control laws don't make housing more affordable to low-income people. That's not the way rent control works. Instead, rent control enables people who don't need those kind of subsidies to live for cheap for longer than necessary. And that's ridiculous, okay? But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think, okay? So basically what a lot of cities are doing right now is they're reallocating some of these rent relief funds that Congress have appropriated towards them, and they're using it to pay lawyers to help fight evictions for tenants. Okay, so they're basically feeding rent relief funds into anti-landlord lawyers. Okay, this is so ridiculous. This is so uncalled for, and I can't stand it. Okay, I can't stand stuff like this when they pass it. They have no clue the consequences when small landlords can't get rid of their tenants, and they have these lawyers holding them up in court, filing useless motions, asking for more time. Meanwhile, we're going bankrupt because we can't make our mortgage payments. So what do you think of this sort of law? Anyway, this article comes from firsttuesday.us, and it says, Santa Ana enacts new rent control measures amid staunch resistance. Yeah, and it wasn't just rent control that they passed, okay? They passed rent control, they passed this good cause eviction thing, and they, like I said, they allocated the funds that were for rent relief towards paying for tenant lawyers and other things they did too that were completely anti-landlord. So I feel for the landlords out there right now, but get ready to suffer, because, this is California we're talking about here. This is the most progressive place in the country, and it doesn't look good. But let's get into the article and see exactly what it says. Southern Californians recognize the Santa Ana winds for their strength and stubbornness, but for renters in the city of Santa Ana itself, the winds of change are stirring. Proponents of rent control have long championed the practice as a solution to California's quickly expanding gentrification problem. Gentrification is an unpopular side effect of increased development and rising property values that pushes long-term residents out of neighborhoods they have long enjoyed and grown. While most housing experts agree rent control does more harm than good, including to tenants, the group who stands to benefit the most from the policies on its face, rent control remains a contentious proposal whenever it resurfaces across the state. So yeah, like the article says, most housing experts, economists, heck, landlords, business owners, property owners, everybody knows, except for these activists and socialists, that everyone knows that government controls over prices, it just doesn't work, okay? These government regulated rent controls, they create more problems, okay, and they don't work, and yet they keep implementing it, and they're like, oh well, this one's going to be different than the other ones. It's going to actually work. It's going to benefit the people who need it. No, it's not. Okay, it never works that way. But let's keep going. Despite California's pre-existing rent control measures, which cap rent increases statewide at 5% annually, some metro areas enact more restrictive local ordinances and additional protections than the state. Recently, Santa Ana became the newest metro in California to adopt its own rent control policies and the first in Orange County to do so. So yeah, the state of California already has statewide caps on rent increases where you can't raise your rent more than 5%. So they're going even more strict in the city of Santa Ana. That's crazy. The Santa Ana City Council held a vote amongst its 7 board members on whether to establish rent control and eviction protections within the city on September 22nd, 2021. The decision came after the board heard hours of testimony from over 100 residents. The council voted 4-3 to approve measures intended to benefit the majority renter community of Santa Ana, including, and now they're going to go over all of the parts of the law that they decided to approve. Now, if you didn't notice what I just read, they said the majority of the people who live in the community of Santa Ana are renters. Okay, so there's no love for landlords there. And the only thing the renters are going to do is pass laws that benefit themselves, regardless of whether it actually is going to hurt them in the long term and whether it's constitutional or not. I mean, think about it. That's like having the ability to vote yourself a pay raise, okay, or lower your own bills. They're like, you know what? I think that my mortgage company charges me too high of an interest rate, so I'm going to vote that all my interest rates are 1% now so that I don't have to pay as high. No, we're talking about financial business here, okay? These landlords, they need to be able to raise rent to keep up with inflation. I mean, inflation is I think it's over 6% so far in 2021. I mean, I know the year is almost over, but if inflation is 6%, the state of California is capping rent increases at 5%, and then the city of Santa Ana is capping their rent increases at 3%. So what do you think landlords are going to do? They're supposed to just lose money so that these renters can stay in a little bit cheaper housing? No, that's ridiculous, okay? Now, if they told me at the same time, hey, we're going to cap all property tax increases, we're going to cap all utility increases, and no, they're not doing that though. Of course not, because that would hurt their pocketbooks. Okay, they don't care if the landlord's pocketbooks are hurt. They go under the assumption that, oh, all landlords are super rich, and I've said it before. Okay, they don't have any idea that the grand majority of landlords own just 1, maybe 2 properties. They're usually a house that they used to live in themselves that they just turned into a rental. So, goodness, wow. But anyway, let's get into what these new rules are. Okay, capping rents at 3% annually or 80% of inflation, whichever is less, for buildings built before 1995 and for mobile home parks established before 1990. Enacting just cause evictions, which limit the circumstances in which a landlord may evict a tenant who has lived in the property for at least 30 days. Allocating pandemic relief money towards creating an eviction defense fund and hiring a consultant until the city creates a new rental control board and a rent registry for apartments. And directing city staff to study how the intended measures will be implemented, according to the Orange County Register. So yeah, 3% cap on rents or 80% of inflation. So 80% of inflation, if you have inflation at 6%, would be, what is that? Shoot. Well, I can't do the math. I'm not a genius here, but it wouldn't be 3%. So it's whichever is less, right? It would be higher than 3%. So you would only be able to raise your rents 3% even this year, where we have 6% inflation. The just cause evictions. I've gone over the just cause evictions in New York. So let's say that you want to sell the property, get completely out of the rental business, and before you do that, you need to fix it up. Okay, so you want to fix this property up. You can't, as soon as the tenant's lease is over, normally you just be able to say, hey, I'm not going to renew your lease because I'm going to fix this property up so that I can sell it. Well, guess what? Now the tenant has more rights than you do as the owner. You can't fix that property up and you can't sell it if the tenant wants to renew the lease. Okay, that's the ridiculousness of just cause evictions. And then the big one, allocating pandemic relief money towards creating an eviction defense fund. So they're going to take pandemic relief money that should be allocated to making sure that the landlords who didn't get paid their rent during all of the stupid eviction moratoriums, they're going to take that money and they're going to pay a bunch of lawyers to make sure that landlords have as hard a time as possible evicting tenants, whether the tenant has no case or not. I mean, I've heard nightmare cases of landlords just filing ridiculous motions over and over again, asking for continuances, and there was no case whatsoever. Or not landlords, but lawyers, And these lawyers, they will just keep, spinning the wheels. And meanwhile, landlord is out tens of thousands of dollars while they're waiting 5-6 months just to get through the court system. Okay? Now, if you pay for lawyers for tenants, you should pay for a lawyer for landlords too. Meanwhile, we're paying for our own lawyers, and that's ridiculous, okay? There shouldn't be a system, especially in a civil process such as eviction, where you pay for a lawyer for one party and not for the other, and not even look at who's in the right and who's in the wrong, okay? That's completely ridiculous. So, man, I'm frustrated at Santa Ana. I'm not surprised that a place like that is, pushing for all of these new anti-landlord laws, okay? There's just more and more municipalities, states have been pushing for all of this anti-landlord stuff ever since the pandemic began, okay? And, like I've said before, this is just a push more towards socialism, okay? And they saw, oh, we can pass universal basic income, and we could pass, this and that, and we'll just keep printing money forever. And no, this stuff does not work. And simply put, we need to get back to normal.